Life is full of work and stress. Parenting can be a mess. Being a woman is hard enough without adding on that extra stuff. We'll cover topics of every kind. Helpful resources we will find. We'll even drink a bottle of wine. Join us. It will be a real good time. Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Nikki.
And welcome to Working Mom's Whine, where we drink a bottle of wine
and whine about our crazy, stressful working mom lives. Try to offer up helpful resources when we can, but mostly just complain.
Mostly. Commiserate with us.
That's right.
And I made this announcement in the last one, but we're double recording since I'm moving. If you saw the podcast I uploaded today, this gives you an idea of how behind we are. I made a note in there that, oops, I forgot to post it, and we didn't post for a week because I'm in the middle of moving. So we're double recording, and I am playing a game that Nikki absolutely loves, Pokemon Go. And today is the one weekend a year where they have their Go Fest, and I paid for a ticket, and I'm going to play it while we're podcasting.
No problems. It did not really interrupt the last session.
Yeah.
Other than me noticing while she's talking and looking at the screen, she's like tap, 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 tap. Yeah. Something, and I'm like,
I had a raid.
Multitask, you know?
Yes. Girl
Which
boss.
Is something we do as working moms all the time.
That's right.
It's
Hashtag
related.
Girl boss.
All right, so today we're drinking another 19 Crimes wine. It's a Sauvignon Blanc, not
Yes.
Blanc, Blanc.
I cracked up when I read this.
That was a great play on words for them. I didn't even notice it when I bought the bottle, so cheers to y'all. Each declared by His Majesty to be punishable on conviction by transportation. Okay. I thought that was going to be better when I started reading
Not
it.
Transportation.
I guess because so many of them wound up in, was it Australia?
Yeah,
Austria?
the penal colony in Australia, yeah.
19 crimes turned convicts into colonists. Upon conviction, British rogues guilty of at least one of the 19 crimes were sentenced to live in Australia rather than death. For the rough-hewn prisoners who made it to shore, a new world awaited. As prisoners in a frontier penal colony, they forged a new country and new lives, brick by brick. You know, it's funny. Brick by brick keeps coming into my world right now.
Does it?
Yesterday it was because I was watching TikTok videos on the For You page, and that's like the algorithm recommended stuff. And I watched this really random video, and someone in the comments said, I built my FYP brick by brick to get to this video. And I was like, that's hilarious.
They do have all 19 crimes on here, though. So I think maybe we should go over those since we haven't done that yet. So the first one is grand larceny, which is theft above the value of 1 shilling. We will not be converting that currency for you. Petty larceny was number 2, which was theft under 1 shilling. 3 is buying or receiving of stolen goods, jewels, and plate. So even if you bought something stolen and didn't know, you could potentially ended up in Australia. Love my grammar there. Number 4 is stealing lead, iron, or copper, or buying it or receiving it. Number 5 is impersonating an Egyptian.
Buy it or receive it? I wonder what that was about.
Well, I think it's buying or receiving of stolen stuff.
That makes more sense.
My whole thing there is like, maybe you didn't know.
Yeah, you might not know. Counterfeit. You never know.
Number 5 is impersonating an Egyptian.
Walk like an Egyptian.
16th century England. That's hard to say altogether.
It's a tongue twister.
Began the criminalization of the wandering people. Eventually, it became a felon to even impersonate one.
Oh, man.
So, like, were they treating them like gypsies?
I have no idea.
That's weird. Number 6.
People. It makes it sound like it, yeah.
Is stealing from furnished lodgings. So, if you went to the hotel and kept the shampoo, you were in trouble.
Shame.
I'd be in Australia right now. Number 7 is setting fire to underwood, which is an Old English term for the undergrowth in a forest. Number 8, stealing letters, advancing the postage, and secreting the money. It became a felony without the benefit of clergy to rob mail or steal letters from the post. It also sounds like you could take the postage money and keep it for yourself and get in trouble for that. Number 9 is assault with an intent to rob. Number 10 is stealing.
What about just assault? Is that
okay? Apparently.
You just want to punch a guy? Like, I don't know.
Number 10 is stealing fish from a pond or a river.
No fish and chips for you.
Even as of 2015, this was an ongoing crime.
Interesting.
I imagine it's an ongoing crime forever. Like, you just find a body of water and you're like, I'm going to fish. You're a criminal.
Well, I mean, I suppose like out here you have to buy a license. And
yeah,
stuff,
you do.
Like,
you have to get fishing licenses. Yeah. So yeah, it's a thing. Number 11 is stealing roots, trees, or plants, or destroying them. Number 12 is bigamy. Just says bigamy, period.
End sentence.
Don't do it. Number 13 is assaulting, cutting, or burning clothes. Because of fashion trends and materials, women's clothes were highly flammable. Is it all the mercury poisoning? No. So, yeah, that's fun. Number 14 is counterfeiting the copper coin. Okay. Number 15 is clandestine marriage. What is clandestine marriage? Is that like scandalous marriage? Because that's what it sounds like.
I think so.
Yeah, it's kept secret or done secretively, especially because it is illicit. So if you go elope with your mistress, you're going to Australia's penal colony. Penal colony. Australia's penal colony. We're going to say the wrong P word one of these days.
I mean, do you remember what Carissa used to say?
Yes, I do.
Take me out to the ball game. You can guess from there which word was improperly pronounced by a very young child.
Yes, I'd love to see your guesses in the comments. Maybe we'll give a prize to the winner. Carissa, you're out.
Can they say that word in the comments without us getting banned?
They can say the word they think was changed.
Okay.
Put the word of the song that you think was not said correctly.
Yes.
By a young child.
Not how you think it was mispronounced, but the word that you think was said incorrectly.
Yes. Don't demonetize the money we're not getting. Number 16 is stealing.
The money we're not getting.
Yeah. Number 16 was stealing a shroud out of the grave. It says the shrouds weren't particularly valuable, but because the corpse was officially not property, it could not be stolen. Why would you do that? Why would you take a shroud?
I don't know. I don't understand half of these things. I'm sure there is history and context behind it, but
17.
It's not my brain anymore if I did learn it in school, so.
People who own a boat carrying too many passengers on the Thames, if the people drowned, you were guilty of a crime. So like if you packed on too many or passengers on a boat and the boat sank and people died because of it, because you wanted to make an extra buck.
That sounds reasonable.
Ooh, I like the phrasing of this next one. Incorrigible rogues who broke out of prison and persons reprieved from capital punishment.
These are hard to read. It's like they printed it onto this picture of a cork.
Yeah.
And so the words are like curved with the cork. And
yes.
I'm like,
and
I might need a vision exam.
An incorrigible rogue is also anyone that was previously convicted as a rogue or vagabond. So if you were convicted and resisted arrest, or yeah, it basically sounds like people who were convicted and resisted arrest, like period.
For shame.
19. Imbuing naval stores. In certain cases, naval stores are all products derived from pine sap. Is another way of saying stealing naval supplies. Okay, but those were the 19 crimes, and the reason it says it condemned you to transportation or whatever is it's the transportation to the penal colony. On a side note, Nikki and I started watching the newer versions of The Mole. I don't know if you guys watched The Mole reality show growing up, but they have 2 new seasons on Netflix, and they started out in Australia. And the first thing I could think of was the penal colony.
We're like, we've heard of Australia recently.
And they did go to a prison block. I don't remember if it was.
They did like
from the original
from the cells kind of challenge.
Yeah. But I thought that was really interesting. So, yeah. I mean, it's Australia is well known for. Damn it! I didn't mean to do that. Australia is well known for being a place where criminals ended up. Like, that was the original.
It's funny. I had no idea. I'd never heard of that. But not that I've studied Australia ever. But if I ever heard that, it did not stick in my brain until 19 Crimes Whine.
Makes you wonder about Bluey's family. No.
Did you know that drinking wine can be educational?
Mm-hmm. Scientifically proven right here. You're learning.
Can you tell this is our second podcast in a row and we're already a couple glasses in?
All right. So today we are whining about bedtime.
Oh, man.
Every parent's favorite time of day. It is because the kid is about to go to bed and then you have free time. But it also isn't, because it is a time of stalling and whining and potty breaks and ruins your life.
To your limit when you have no restraint left.
Yes, because you're at the end of the day and you just want them to go to bed.
And so many times throughout the day you say to yourself, I just got to make it to 8 p.m., 9 p.m., whatever the bedtime is. I just have to make it till then. I just have to make it till then. Even though in the back of your brain, you know that there will be about 50 requests post that time trying to fight going to sleep.
Last night, Jack did not go to sleep until somewhere between 10:30 and 11.
Oh,
and I put him in the bed
midnight, so.
at 8:30.
During the school year, I am very strict with Ari. We have a very particular routine. It works very well for us. And, I don't bend to the requests then. But during the summer,
things get a
lot
little
more lax. And there's a lot more pushback because she knows I'm being more lax. And,
here we might actually be offering a little bit of resources because routine really is everything when it comes to bedtime.
Routine is everything. And don't be afraid to make the routine start so early that people are like, how do you have a life? Because it works for us. During the school year, she is 6 years old. And the routine that we have had for a very long time since she was even younger is that we pick a time where we get into my bed together.
Yeah.
And we watch TV together. So when she was a toddler, we would watch the Mickey and Minnie shorts on Disney Plus, and we would just watch them until, what the time she needed to move into her bed. Mm-hmm. And then she'd move into her bed, and there'd be a certain time that I would allow things like sleep stories to play or whatever the thing is. And of course, there are times where this rule is not rigid because she was going through a growth or what are those? I'm forgetting the term, but there's a term when your baby is growing up through baby to toddlerhood and they hit a point where they go through this. It's not necessarily
like regression.
Yeah, regression. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
And you have to fight through that period.
Yes.
And hang on to humanity with all your might. So the rules go out the window when that happens because it really is like putting a demon to bed. I have pictures of Ari planking from the rocking chair to the floor in screaming terror like she's going to murder me in the middle of the night, just trying to get her to fall asleep in her bed during a regression. Gosh. So, and there were so many times where it was suggested to me that she might have behavioral problems because of that, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
She was going through a growth spurt. She was going through a sleep regression. It's perfectly natural. It happens.
They don't know how to regulate.
Many times. Yeah, they don't know how to regulate. And they're overtired, they're undertired, all of those things. And it's a real guessing game as to if you put them to bed 15 minutes earlier or 15 minutes later.
Yeah.
And which one's going to be the magic number. And it's only going to be the magic number for 2 months, and then it'll switch.
Yep.
So it can be extremely infuriating and frustrating. And I encourage all mothers to just do what you have to do to survive. Yep. I did things like put an extra baby mattress under her crib, and when I would go in there with her and it would be late into the night and we're trying to get her to sleep, I would pull out the extra mattress and I would just fall asleep next to her on the mattress. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night and go to my own bed with my partner.
You're smarter than me because I usually just slept on the floor and that was like, oh, I'm too old for this.
I did what I had to do to make it as convenient as possible for myself. And I will say I had the privilege of owning extra mattresses at the time. Most people don't, like crib mattresses. So,
Yeah, when we get a new one, it's because the old one's way too torn up.
I had a couple, I think because I had one, I had a couple in different houses. And then when I got divorced and moved into my house, 2 came with me into my home.
Yeah.
I think maybe one from mom's and one from my house or something.
Yeah.
But whatever it might be, I wound up with 2. Oh, no, it was because Dan's sister gave us a toddler bed that she wasn't ready for yet, and she gave us the mattress too. So I had the crib mattress and the toddler bed mattress, which was the same size.
Yeah.
And I still have that extra crib mattress. I gave one away when I gave the toddler bed away. But I kept one, and we have it in the basement. Anytime we have to go down there for tornadoes, Ari likes to lay on it. So
that is
as
one
long
thing.
As she fits on it and uses it, I will keep it.
That's one thing I'm going to miss about this house is like if we had to go down, they could put a mattress in the playhouse, and then we could be like, look, here's your mattress with your pillows and your little blankets, and it's fun. We're not down here for a tornado.
In your new house, we could do it.
We could.
Anyway, bedtimes are painful. And I think there's 2 versions for those of us with school-age children. There's school year bedtimes and there's summer bedtimes.
Yes.
And weekend bedtimes, so maybe 3 versions.
Weekend bedtime and summer bedtime are the same thing for me.
Yeah.
Basically, I let the weekend rules apply during the summer.
That's smart. We got a lot more lax with the summer rules this year, and sometimes it's been for a reason, and other times it's just been because I've been overwhelmed, tired, and lazy. And
it happens.
And I think, what does it matter? She doesn't have to wake up for school. But then I remind myself later, like, sleep habits are a thing. And if I let it mess with her too much during the summer, it will be really painful to move back during the school year.
Yeah.
And so I try to reel it back in every now and then, but it's hard. And I walk a fine line personally of being too rigid. And so I try to not let that seep into her world and make her a rigid person. So then I'm maybe sometimes overcorrecting a little bit. You know, nobody's ever doing perfect or walking right on the right line. So I just give myself a lot of grace. But I know there are times where I give her too much room and times where I don't give her enough room, and I try to find a happy middle ground.
What you need to do.
Which is nearly impossible. So.
What does your school time bedtime routine look like?
So I mentioned before that we'd get into bed at the same time and have time to watch TV and kind of wind down together. And originally that started happening because I was living with my partner and he had an older child, and I still wanted Ari and I to have time alone in the evening before she went to bed. It was a special time to me where we got to snuggle and watch Disney stuff and relax and kind of wind down for bed. And, you know, when she was a baby, I would rock her in a rocking chair and read her little books. So this kind of escalated into us getting into my bed and reading a couple books and then watching Disney cartoons and then moving to her bed at a certain time. So she knew that she would get that time with me in my bed and not miss out on that.
Yeah.
But then she would move to her bed and go to sleep so that I could sleep in my bed without a child.
Yeah.
Which was a hard boundary for me to draw.
Yeah. I was going to say that can be a very difficult one to establish.
Yeah. And there was a long period of time, too, where she had been sleeping on her own, and then for multiple reasons related to living with that partner, I had her sleeping on a mattress next to me. Our mattress was already on the floor. We didn't have a bed frame or anything. Mm-hmm. And then her mattress would be next to my side of the bed on the floor, and she would sleep there.
That's how mine is right now.
So there was a time where that was the thing. But since she started school, our routine has been at 8 o'clock we get into my bed, and we eat bedtime snacks, and we watch videos. She watches her kids' videos on her Safe Vision app, where I can control what YouTube videos she's allowed to have access to, and there's no commercials or play the next video things. You know.
Do you pay for Safe Vision?
It's $30 a year.
That's not bad.
No, it's not, for a whole year. And you get to approve every single channel they have access to, and you can pick specific videos from those channels to remove. So, like, if she's watching one and I think it's inappropriate, I can go block that particular video without blocking the whole channel in person, which is really helpful when you have a kid who likes to watch Roblox and Minecraft videos.
Yeah.
Because there are some where they do role plays that I find questionable for a 6-year-old. I don't want to teach her how to be a bully or a mean girl or any of that stuff.
Sometimes vampires questionable, too.
Oh, God, I have a story for that.
You should tell that. That would be hilarious at the end.
Okay. So we have our video time, and sometimes I'm on my phone and she's on her tablet, or I'm on the TV and she's on her tablet. I'll watch Disney vloggers on the TV, something, you know, kid appropriate.
Yeah.
But we have our time together. And that is what I tell her. That's our snuggle time. That's time for you to get your cuddles in, to talk to me about anything you want to talk to me about, open floor discussion for whatever And it gives us time to like sit still and kind of wind down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have everything set up on Alexa, so we get little alerts. We get alerts 10 minutes before bed that it's time to reset the house and pick up anything you can and put it away. And then we go upstairs with our snacks, and I've walked the dogs, and I give them their medicine, and we get into bed, and we snuggle, and we do that stuff. And then at 8:45, we get an alert that says it's time for Ari to go brush her teeth and get into bed. So she goes in the bathroom, brushes her teeth. There's always a fight about that. She always says, do I have to? Yes, you do. Can I take my videos? Blah, blah, blah. We have the battle. She goes and brushes her teeth. And then she gets into her bed. And then I have an alarm that, not an alarm on Alexa, but a parenting control time limit on her tablet that makes her videos shut off at, I want to say it's 9:30. Mm-hmm. And then she has to call me on the Alexa and ask me for more time. And because of the Safe Vision app, I can add 15 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
So I'll give her maybe one extra 15 minute. And then I say, okay, it's time to switch to sleep stories and go to sleep. And we have rules about when she's in her bed watching the tablet, she has to turn the brightness all the way down. Mm-hmm. She has to turn the volume to at least half or lower. And then when the timer goes off and it's time for sleep stories, we have the Calm app, which is another $70 a year. There are videos on YouTube you could probably use for very similar things. There are other apps like Headspace that does sleep stories.
Yeah.
But we happened to use Calm when she was a toddler and she got kind of attached to it. So now I just pay for it.
I mean, that's what, $12 a month?
Yeah, it's not the worst.
Yeah.
It's less than some streaming services, so... There's a sleep section on there, and they have specific sleep stories for kids, and she has favorites, so she'll listen to it. And the thing I've been trying to teach her is when I was a kid, I had trouble falling asleep, and there weren't things like sleep stories. I wasn't allowed to have stuff like that. Those things didn't exist.
Yeah, we fall asleep to Mystery Men instead.
And I had a lot of trouble falling asleep. So when I was a kid, I can remember all the time freaking out, looking at the clock, seeing that it was midnight, that it was 1 a.m. Oh my God, I'm not asleep yet. Everybody's asleep. Why am I not asleep? Panicking. I'd walk into mom's room. I'd try to wake her up and say, I can't fall asleep. Half the time she thought I was sleepwalking. Sometimes I was because I was a sleepwalker. But sometimes I was actually awake and just panicked about not being able to fall asleep. And I didn't want to pass that to my child. So I was like, how do I help her learn that it's okay to lay in bed awake and not be falling asleep? It's not something to cause panic, because that just makes you stay awake longer.
Sure.
So we have the sleep stories, and basically what I say when she says I can't fall asleep is, what do we remember about falling asleep? It's okay to not fall asleep. You just lay comfortably, snuggled under your blanket with your eyes closed, and you focus on the words of the sleep story. Mm-hmm. And before you realize it, you'll be asleep. But if you're not asleep, you just hit the next sleep story, and you just hit the next sleep story. And as long as you're laying there with your eyes closed and you're laying still and you're not getting up and playing with stuff in your room, you'll get some rest and you'll be okay. So trying to teach her, woosah. It's okay.
Woosah.
Calm down. And eventually you'll just fall asleep.
Oh my gosh.
And is there a little bit of a crutch there with the sleep stories? Sure. Do I care? No.
Yeah.
Because now we all have phones and iPads and all these things in our beds all the time anyway, are next to the bed. It's not going to hurt her to learn how to fall asleep to a sleep story and to need that for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
No harm done. I sleep with headphones on because I need sound, not to distract myself enough to fall asleep, but because I have really severe tinnitus.
Yeah.
And if I don't hear voices talking in my ears, all I hear is the loud ringing, and then I cannot fall asleep.
Yeah.
So just trying to give her the appropriate crutches. But that's our regular sleep time. She's usually passed out by 10 or 10:30.
And sometimes you use a crutch for a while and then you don't. Like, I used to fall asleep to the sound of our grandma literally recorded the ocean. You could hear the seagulls and everything. And I would put that cassette in and I would be asleep before it was over, and then it would stop. And then for years I slept in absolute silence, and it was glorious. And then I married a guy that like wanted to have the fan on all the time. And I was like, this is awful. And now, after being married to this person for over a decade, the other day we had the bathroom fan off, and I was like, where's the noise? I need the noise. I can't sleep. So it definitely changes.
When Ari was a baby, I put this big fan, like the box fans you buy at Walmart, in the back hallway, and have it on blowing towards the room because our dogs yip, 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 yip. And we had a full wood floor house, so everything echoed. Yes. So I would turn the fan on anytime she took a nap or went to sleep, hoping to like disperse some of that noise when they barked and not wake her up. Well, then I became reliant on falling asleep to the fan because it pointed at my bedroom too.
I was afraid because like when the kids are younger and you have the baby monitors on, you hear the sound machine through the baby monitor, and you keep it on all night so that you can hear if they wake up at 2 a.m. I was afraid when we stopped using the baby monitor in Jack's room that I was going to have issues. But because we have a bathroom fan, I don't. The new house will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
We got rid of the fan eventually, but then I replaced it with an air purifier, which makes a little...
Does it?
A little noise.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a very low noise, but it's enough now that
that might be my transition tool.
If I forget to turn it on, I'll wake up at like 2 a.m. and I'll be like, it's too quiet. And I have to go like turn it on. So, I bought it on Prime Day, which is coming up. So
yes.
You might be able to look out.
We made ourselves a little budget for Prime Day. And I know we've already had the financial talks, but I do have a Prime card. And I use it specifically for things like Prime Day when I know I'm going to be buying anyway. Yeah. So we're like, here's the budget we're setting aside for Prime Day. We're going to put everything on the Prime card within that budget, get the cash back, and then pay the Prime card off, and then get a bunch of free stuff.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. So when we buy stuff for our new house, hopefully we'll end up with a good thing going on there.
A TikTok the other day. I don't know if you'd heard of this, but there's some sort of lawsuit that happened or is happening with Amazon, and people were talking about kind of what the issues were, and I had not heard this before. But apparently if you have a Prime account and a non-Prime account, and you go and look at the same item, sometimes it's cheaper for the non-Prime people, even though they're paying shipping or whatever.
Interesting.
They up the price for the Prime people so that they're paying for the yearly membership, and then they are also paying extra for the products.
Amazon?
And they're not being shipped as quickly as they claim because they'll say, 2-day shipping.
Yeah, they never
ship.
That
email that says, it's running behind. Like
they never ship as fast as they used to.
That was happening, and also people were getting different prices when they looked on their phone versus when they looked on their laptop.
Interesting.
So be aware and look both places. Ask someone who doesn't have Prime to look up the exact same product and see that you're getting a good price.
I will say too, I only buy something on Prime Day if it's at least 50% off.
Yeah.
If it's like a 20-30% discount, I'm like, I could probably get that at any time.
Yeah.
So I don't really worry about those.
It's not always a deal you think.
Right, exactly.
I think the lawsuit was more about them saying that Prime included all the stuff and then slowly taking all the stuff away, like the TV without ads and the music and all that stuff. But there was something related to that, and I was like, that's interesting and completely believable. I'd like to get rid of my Prime membership, but I keep forgetting before it auto-renews.
See, I don't... Just for the free shipping alone, I don't see how you could ever get rid of it.
I think after hearing that video, it's not always really free shipping. So
you think it'll even out?
Yeah. Well, there was one lady that said there are certain things that if you pile them together and you have over $35, the shipping is free anyway. She said, I got rid of Prime. I do that every time I have a wish list. I put the stuff I want to buy on a wish list. And then when I have enough stuff to be over 35, I put it in my cart and order it.
Interesting.
Because if you just put it as save for later, then it knows and it messes with it somehow. So I thought I might try that because my parents have Prime and I could always say, let me buy this on your account.
And that's what I used to do. I used to piggyback off of your guys' Prime, and then eventually I was like, okay, we're getting to the point in society where I have to have it.
But I think really the further I get away from Amazon, the happier I am. So it's too much. Jeff Bezos makes too much money. They mistreat their employees.
They really do.
Also see TikToks about women who are working for Amazon. They get laid off and they had just been diagnosed with cancer and are getting ready to start cancer treatment. And then of course the insurance gets taken away, and I don't know if they're going to sue. I think they should.
They absolutely should.
Because there's more than one woman going through this particular situation. But I keep running across, they keep removing her insurance, and then she fights them, and it winds up getting reinstated, and then they remove it again. And she's like trying to fight this battle while she's getting chemo and radiation.
That's ridiculous.
It's awful. So
maybe don't do Prime Day.
I'm trying to get away from it as much as I can. It's hard because I'm very reliant on Alexa and the routines and the alarms and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you want to have the extra stuff that feeds into that. You want to be able to play music on it.
Right.
And use the apps on it. And,
Right. There are other companies I've completely cut out of my life because of that. Tyson. I don't buy any Tyson products. The only time we went to a Walmart over the last decade was Brandon picked up some moving boxes from there the other day because we don't have a Home Depot or Lowe's or anything else out where we live. And it's difficult, but can be done. But like Amazon just seems like a whole new level of cutting this out would really suck.
Yes. There's a lot of convenience factor, a lot of quick shipping factors.
Yeah.
And I use Amazon a lot as a single mom because I can't run to the store
Exactly.
and get this or that. And it's a lot easier to pick something that just ships to me.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to be better using other pickups like Target pickup, Walmart pickup.
Yeah.
Trying to push myself outside the comfort zone for those things.
Yeah.
But, we pay for convenience sometimes, and sometimes it's worth it. So
yeah,
you got to do what's right for you and your family, and not let the guilt trip hit you too far if you are, funding Jeff Bezos and his craziness. But, we do what we can at the same time. So pick and choose your battles, all of that. I did the Kellogg's boycott.
Yeah.
I did that, but it was not that hard for me. There weren't that many Kellogg's products that we were depending on.
Well, and my grocery store has a lot of sales on General Mills, so it's been very easy for me to avoid Kellogg's.
Yes. And it worked. I don't know if anybody who's done the boycott has been watching, but it worked. Their stocks took a huge dip.
Good.
So
they deserve it.
Now they've moved on to Nestle. I think the big thing is to move on to Nestle, and some people are just continuing to boycott Kellogg's and adding Nestle. Some people are now going back to Kellogg's to prove that they had buying power, and moving on to Nestle. And some people can't participate in Nestle because, lo and behold, they have a large market on medical devices and dog food, which are hard things to switch, and baby formula.
Something that you don't always know is that a company owns a lot of different other companies.
Yes.
They're all under one umbrella.
What are those things where they put the pictures, the graph pictures?
Yes, yeah.
And they're like, oh, Nestle owns 50 little companies
right.
that have different names. And you're like, what the hell?
Right. Or Nestle themselves might be owned by a company where you were like, ooh, I was not going to support that company.
Nestle owns a lot of the bottled water companies too.
Yeah.
So
oh, yeah, they do.
It can be difficult. And there's a great website called Let Them Eat Cereal. And you can go there. That's the thing that kicked it all off was when the CEO of Kellogg's came online and said, if people can't afford food, maybe they should just eat cereal for dinner. Was that
Marie Antoinette?
Yes.
Yeah, she would be proud.
Yeah. It was a play on that. So now they've, moved on to Nestle. But they have a whole community of people that will teach you, recipes to make the stuff if your kids insist on eating it, like how to make it yourself at home. You can give recipes. A lot of people have taken recipes for like Pop-Tarts, taken them to their local bakery, and they have started making them and selling them to the community.
I have seen there are
things you can do.
Pop-Tart recipes before.
Yeah. But of course, we also recognize there are people that don't have the money, resources,
right,
stress level to accommodate for doing that. And that's okay too.
Right.
Exactly. Nobody's getting hated on for not being able to participate or only participate in half of it.
Right. If you're low income or in a food desert, you don't have a choice. And that's why sometimes it's like, yes, I can participate in a certain boycott, but other things it's like, I've got a family of 6 now, including me and Brandon, and we've got to figure out what's on sale this week.
Yes, especially when it comes to the, durable medical equipment and baby formula. You can't mess
baby
with that,
formula.
So.
I always took the cheapest option unless I had a baby where it was like, we have to have the sensitive. And even then,
you have to
try the different brands, and they're only going to like one of them. And you're just like, okay, cool. I guess that's what we're doing.
This is what we're doing. And dog food is the same. My dogs are on a special, they have pancreatitis, and so it's like low-fat food. And I tried 3 different brands, and there was only one that didn't give them diarrhea for 6 months. So that is the food we buy, and that is the only food I will ever buy until they both die. So I don't care who makes it. They're getting it.
Right.
Sometimes it is what it is.
Yeah.
But you participate where you can, and cereal was an easy thing for us, and we were getting frozen waffles from them, so I just switched to a different brand, and easy peasy.
Yeah. My kids surprisingly were not into like the Lego My Eggos, but they were into toaster strudels and still are.
Ari's never had a toaster strudel, I don't think, unless she had it at her dad's.
Well, Grandma
she did
has
the frozen waffles.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe she has had them.
I was so excited as an adult to be able to buy frozen waffles when they went on sale and be like, I can buy as many as I want. But then by the time you're an adult, they're small and you're like,
I have to eat like 5 of them?
Yes.
To be a breakfast?
If I have to eat the whole box, I'm not really saving any money. Our school year bedtime routine.
There you
go. So it's been really interesting because the neighbors were watching our kids.
Okay.
While Brandon and I were working, and then one or the other of us would go get Jack and then come home. So by the time we get home, it's like 7 o'clock. And the kids are getting older. So Lucas, Eliana, if they wanted to come home earlier, cool. Silas is still at that point where it's like, I don't know if I really want him home alone for a certain amount of time. But he does have older siblings. So there's that. Yeah. But oftentimes, they were coming into the house at 7 and homework's not done because they wanted to play with their friends next door and not do the homework.
Of course.
So at least they had dinner already.
Yeah.
But we would basically have to start our bedtime routine at 7 because of all the things. So I was like, okay, sit down and do homework first. Then you can have a snack. Then we can brush our teeth. And if you're not a morning shower, you would shower or take your bath at night. And then it was like, okay, is there anything on the chore list we have to do? And during the school year, we keep the chore list really light. So it's basic things like, did you do your devotional? Because if you get it all done throughout the week and then you go back to church, then you get a prize. If you don't get it done, you don't. So I'm like, all right, let's make sure we set aside time. And there's only 4 of them. So like, say you get a little behind during the week, you can do one on Saturday or Friday or whatever.
Yeah.
So we try to get a devotional done if we can. And then I always like them to do 30 minutes of reading before bedtime. The teachers ask parents to do 20, but my whole thought was, you get through all your stuff, you've got your pajamas on, your teeth brushed, your snack ate. If you have time, we'll do like a 30-minute electronic turn. Not everyone will get to go on the actual computer, but they've all got tablets, phones. They don't all have phones. They all have tablets because the school gives it to them. We have one phone that they all share. I'm really surprised I still have it right now. No one has claimed it from me. But yeah, once we get through all the stuff that I feel like we have to get through for school and church and whatnot, they often don't have a lot of time left before actual bed. Yeah. And even if the school did not suggest, and they don't require it, there's no way we have to track it, anything like that. But the school does send this thing home at the beginning of every year. And they're like, part of homework, and they do not send a drastic amount of homework back with these kids. Very often I'm like, do you have homework? And they're like, no. And I'm like, are you sure though? Because I feel like you should have more homework.
Lying to me?
Yeah. But they'll say part of it is they'd like the kids to read 20 minutes a night. And I feel like it's a good way to wind down. When I'm in bed and I start reading a book, it's often lights out far sooner than I want it to be.
Yes. Yes.
So I have them start reading at 8 o'clock. We stop reading at 8:30, and that's when they get lights out. Mm-hmm. During the summer, I do let them stay up until 10, and I try to get them in the summer reading program. Usually, though, they'll do the reading in the middle of the day because I feel like we need to break up the electronics. So I give them more chores during the summer and also the middle of the day reading time. But that does mean that like they get to stay up until 10. And that's like, okay, real quick, pajamas, teeth, in bed, let's go. So sometimes it's like 10:30 before they fall asleep. But they're all old enough that I'm like, it's fine. And they can sleep in the next day. Jack's the only wild card. And I think that's why he was up until 11 o'clock last night, was because his nap that day had gone until like 4:30.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't do that.
In the summer or on the weekends, Ari is easily 11:30, midnight.
Yeah.
She's a night owl. She likes being up late. It bodes very well when we go to Disney World and I want her to be awake late while we're running around the park.
True.
But during the school year, it can be a bear to battle.
The only other thing that I make sure to do is when we're transitioning from summer back into the school year, the week before school starts, we're back on the school schedule.
Yeah.
That way, even though I'm putting them in bed at 8:30 and I know they're not going to actually fall asleep that quickly, their bodies can get back used to it. And I know Ari has her sleep stories, but I tell my kids when they come out and say, I can't sleep because I do this myself, is, well, start thinking up something in your head and then you'll fall asleep and start to dream about it.
It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
She's just listening to someone else's thoughts.
Exactly. Like, I'm just dreaming up my own adventure.
Yeah.
Like, when I was younger and playing a lot of World of Warcraft, I'd think up these things of, like, if I was actually my character and what my character would do. And, like, you get mounts in the game, like horses, camels, whatever. Like, I would just be like, oh, man, I'm on my little mount and I'm riding off to my adventure.
That probably stems from?
My overactive imagination?
No. When we were younger and I would beg you to read Choose Your Own Adventures to me before bed and we would choose our own adventures.
Choose Your Own Adventures were the best. They were the best.
It was like a blend of not having to come up with it yourself, but also getting to choose your path. And then
there was one downside.
Bad would happen, we would backtrack and pick a different option.
That was the downside because you had to, like, keep your thumb or your finger where you were. And sometimes you get going down a path and there's like 3 choices. And you're like, okay, I got to bookmark, all 3 of these.
The downside for you,
and
because
still
you had the book and were
flip
reading
to
out
the
loud,
page.
and I was just making the decisions and laying there. So
That's fair. It got real complicated sometimes. But they were really good books.
They were good books.
I should teach my kids. I should show my kids Choose Your Own Adventure and see if they like it.
We should find some. That'd be fun.
Yeah. I guarantee you they've still got those out there. But
yeah.
Because some of them would end right away when you made the wrong choice, and some of them would take you down 2 or 3 more options and then be like, oh, now you're dead.
Yes. Yes. Sleep time routines, habits are a great thing to start when you're young.
Yes.
I teach them to older people a lot in my current job, and it's difficult. But all the main points, make sure you've had a snack that is low in sugar and high in protein,
mm-hmm.
that you have turned off your screens at least 30 minutes, more like an hour before you want to pass out, because the blue light is a thing.
And if you're
not able to do that, get blue light glasses.
And if you're super young or still potty training, remember to do one last pee before you go to bed. And if they yell at you, if they're 30 minutes into bedtime and they're still awake and they're like, I have to go pee, believe them.
Just let them go.
Believe them.
It's never worth the battle to say no. And then
and I found out the hard way. Exactly. I've woken up to a couple of wet beds and been like, well, we're going to go potty now every single time.
And make sure the room is completely dark. Blackout curtains if you need them.
Get rid of the toys if you can.
A cold room is always better, and snuggle under warm blankets.
Yeah.
What are the other things? Of course, making sure you drink water enough throughout the day, but stopping an hour before bed so that you don't have to wake up and pee all night long.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's harder with little kids. They like to drink milk like right up to the last second, and they seem to do fine. So.
Yeah.
But also knowing when you're potty training that piece of your brain that wakes you up to go to the bathroom doesn't develop in everyone until like 8 or older sometimes.
Yep.
So, being aware of that and telling your kids that. I make you go to the bathroom before you go to bed because your brain doesn't develop that part that wakes you up until you're 8 or older sometimes.
And there have been times
normal.
Where Jack was literally asleep and whining in his sleep. And sometimes he whines in his sleep and he's about to be like sick, and that's different.
Yeah.
But sometimes he whines in his sleep, and I'm like, listen, I know your eyes are shut, but we're going to walk into the bathroom. I'm going to help you go to the potty. And he does. And then he quits whining. And I'm like, okay, cool. We avoided a wet bed right there.
Right.
So if they're whining, it's worth checking it out.
It's worth it every time. Every time.
And just give them time to transition, whether it's into the summer or out of the summer. They're going to need time to transition to the earlier bedtime.
Yeah. Giving them the time, you the time, making those 15-minute micro adjustments when you need to.
Yes.
It's a trial and error process, but it's worth the work in the end. And teaching them how to soothe. Not cry yourself to sleep. That's a big one. But soothe and chill and relax and not pressure yourself.
Yeah.
Like all of that is going to do nothing but serve them better as they grow older.
And don't be afraid to bribe your kids sometimes.
Yeah, I do that too.
Well, if you go straight to bed and don't cause an issue, we'll do this fun thing the next day. Or I might let my 4-year-old play the PlayStation for 20 minutes or whatever.
I'll let you skip this thing this one time if you don't fight me on it the rest of the week.
Yes. Yeah, I have absolutely let the kids skip reading, for instance.
I let her skip brushing her teeth a couple times. Gross, sure. But if I say, I'll let you skip it on a Saturday night if you don't fight me the rest of the week, then I don't have to fight her during the school week.
And if it's a Saturday where she's at her dad's, maybe it wasn't going to happen anyway.
Actually, what's funny is I think he's stricter on that than me.
That's
he'll
hilarious.
Make her brush her teeth, and then if she needs another snack, he'll make her rebrush her teeth.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up with how Nikki's child managed to get herself banned from Roblox.
This is so good.
I greatly enjoyed seeing this text come across my phone the other day.
So the kids, when they play Roblox, they go into these places where you can like buy and build homes and change your outfits, and you do what's called role play. We all know what that is, right? So Ari will go in with her friends and they'll pick a role play to do. Maybe they pretend to be werewolves or descendants from the Disney movies or aliens or mermaids, whatever it is. They pick a theme and then they play characters off that with each other in the city, in the town, in the houses. And so Ari has come across a game on Roblox that's based off the Vampire Diaries TV show. And
I didn't know it was based off of that.
Loved that show. I have watched every episode of that and every spinoff that they've had.
That's fun.
And she has seen a few here and there. Of course, I turn it off or pause it if it gets too gross, violent, sexual, all the things.
Right.
But there are times when it's just normal stuff and I'll let it play when she's around.
Yeah.
So she found that game and she thought it was so cool because you get to pick if you're a vampire, a werewolf, a witch, and you get different powers based on that, and you run around the town and try to defeat people of the opposite group, whatever. Yeah. So she has fun doing that, and she found that game before she even knew about the TV show. And I was like, oh, that's based on the TV show I love. So we've had a lot of fun, interacting with that together. So she's doing a role play in this town, and the role play is that they're all vampires, werewolves, whatever you want to do.
Now, did you know that she was in that specific thing at the time?
No.
Okay.
So what happened is Ari came running down the stairs, practically in tears, panicking. I think my Roblox has been hacked. I think I've been banned. I don't think I can play anymore. And we give her gift cards for special events, holidays, whatever. Mm-hmm. She's got a lot of different characters built and money things put into these different games, purchases for VIP and whatever.
Right.
So she was panicked that she would not be able to log back in ever again. So she brings me the iPad and it says, community violation, you've been banned or you've been cut off for thus and such reason. And it was for violating community guidelines. And it said something about inappropriate something or other. And I was like, oh no. So I said,
what has my 6-year-old been doing?
Yeah, I said, we've talked a lot about internet security, not telling people where we live or how old we are or our real names, coming to mommy if somebody says something that makes you uncomfortable or they're bullying you or anything. And we've also talked extensively about how that doesn't mean she's going to be banned from playing it or things like that, because we don't want the fear of that to stop from sharing safety information.
Right.
So for being a 6-year-old, she's probably learned a lot more about that than some other kids her age, because I'm paranoid and a therapist. So she comes to me, she panics, we start reading through it, and I say, before I read through it, this is your chance to tell me if you participated in something you're not supposed to. Did you say something mean to somebody? Did you do something you weren't supposed to that we've talked about? No, I swear, no. That's what they always say, right?
Of course.
Of course. Right. So I start reading through, and luckily with Roblox, they give you the exact things, the conversations that happened that got led to being banned and are reported. And half of it is done by AI. So that's what happened here. It was a complete misconstrue.
Yeah, misconstrued
what happened,
events. Yeah.
So the comments that they highlighted, it kills me, guys. The comment they highlighted that she was kicked out for it said, "pulls out," and then had a heart emoji. So without any context, pulls out.
Blue heart or whatever,
Yeah, it was a blue heart, yeah. And I looked at it and I was like, what were you doing? And I read like the conversation leading up. There was like a few lines leading up and a few after. And she said, oh, I was playing with my friend and we were doing a vampire role play. And you know how in the show, she saw in the show where, I don't always pause it in time. She saw in the show where to kill a vampire, you have to reach in, grab their heart and yank it out. So she was killing somebody saying, I reached in, I pulled out your heart. But she didn't know how to spell heart, so she used the emoji. So what it said is pulls out heart. And what she meant is, I pulled your heart out of your chest cavity. I killed you. So I almost died of laughter. I sent it to everybody I knew.
We also subsequently almost died of laughter.
And then, because it was her first violation, we could just click a box that said we agree to follow rules and guidelines in the future and move on.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't too negatively affect whatever happens the next time AI misreads what she's saying. But I was utterly relieved that she wasn't involved in some sort of grooming episode or something.
Right.
But also just died of hilarity.
Yeah, with a 6 and 7-year-old, like, you don't know that you're violating community guidelines. And I can see where it can be upsetting too. Like, Silas will watch these videos, and he knows a lot of them are fake because we've had to have these talks. But he'll watch videos of, like, end screens that you might see if you're pirating a game or this or that or whatever. But the other day, he finds out about malware and viruses. And I'm like, this is kind of cool because my kid is super smart. But also, this is kind of a problem because he's going to put more stock into this. Like, when you hear the word malware and then you're watching all these YouTube videos on it that sometimes they might be giving you factual information, but sometimes they just want to scare the pants off their viewers because that's how they get the views.
Yeah, they're just trying to get clicks.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, if Silas had, like, learned about all that stuff and then encountered the same issue Ari had with being banned, that would have been his first thought was, did I get hacked? Is this malware? What's going on?
That's exactly what she said when she came down. I think I got hacked. I've been banned.
Yeah.
My account is gone. I said, bring me the screen.
And maybe it's good that they're overconscious on it instead of falling for every scam that comes up your way, but
yeah.
Holy cow.
I was glad that she saw that, and instead of trying to hit buttons and get out of it, she brought it to me.
Yeah,
to talk
that's a
about
good thing.
And I was like, okay, we're on the right track.
Yes. Well, I've got some company showing up in a minute, so I'm going to cut us off. But as always, it has been fun. You can find us on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all the things. Like and subscribe. Comment. I would love to hear if you've had any fun stories with your kids, like where they got accidentally banned from something. Those always crack me up.
Those are funny.
Yeah.
You got bedtime routines?
Yes. Any
tips, tricks?
Any life hacks in that area, I'm sure would help out other mamas in the community too, or stay-at-home dads, whatever. Oh, you can find us on workingmomswine.com, patreon.com/workingmomswine, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.